a week ago now, at the very beginning of the war, in these sort of formal initial announcements, both the Prime Minister and the Israeli army said that there was a plan in place for 14 days of war, for a 2-week kind of special operation, let's call it. But today, both the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Prime Minister, speaking in public, said that disrupting the work of such a formidable enemy as Iran is a long-term job, and that the army is geared up and prepared for a lengthy battle. So, you know, it's, and a few days ago we heard the Prime Minister, if I'm not mistaken, or the Defense Minister mention a 30-day war. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, as you mentioned earlier, there are diplomatic efforts underway, some fairly urgent ones, to at least bring this fighting to a ceasefire. So it's very, very difficult to know what they mean, at least here in Israel, what they mean when they say 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or just a very long period of time.
And you very clearly at the outset, Noga, talked about this strategic feint, you know, this kind of deliberate false move going on at the start, this time last week, or just before Friday, the preparations that Benjamin Netanyahu was going to head to the northern coast of Israel for the wedding of his son. And we saw, didn't we, this kind of hint a little bit later on that had been putting signs out there, placing a prayer note into the Western Wall, suggesting a quote, I think, from the Book of Numbers, quoting the rise of the lion, Operation Rising Lion. A week on, are you getting more of a sense of the stories emerging of how this has been so carefully planned?
This has been planned for a very long time on very different levels. Not all of them, and maybe even not the majority of them, having to do with the Prime Minister, who, of course, did have to give the final okay. What we're getting a sense of, I'm at least getting a much clearer sense of it, what it was in recent weeks and months that made the Israeli authorities in general feel that the danger being presented by Iran had grown. So not only the figures and the scientific data brought by the UN watchdog, which was announced in I think by coincidence, in a dossier presented on Thursday, just hours before the Israeli attack, but Israeli intelligence, which we now know has a very in Iran, had accumulated over recent months what it considers evidence of Iran clearly and pace by pace advancing towards weapons-grade uranium enrichment. And in Israel, the feeling was growing that this could not be allowed to happen.